Hey guys, you know what would be really good as far as continuity goes on my channel? I was thinking and I thought 12 rom-coms before Christmas. See, I'm a big rom-com watcher, like many of my fellow rom-commies. I grew up watching it at sleepovers and with my mom, and there are a lot out there, more than I even realized. Like, I was trying to narrow the list down to 12, and even in the past 3 years, there are a surprising number. One of my ideas, instead of ranking down from worst best to best best, would be to have some people kind of throw their hat in and vote what they think I should cover, because it's impossible to cover the 12 best subjectively, so much as 12 rom-coms about Christmas that I can cover and we will enjoy talking about. Yes. So, my first poll, which I had on Twitter and on Instagram, both social media handles that you can find me and follow me on, involved this year's two, straight to streaming big rom coms of the holidays, including The Night Before Christmas and Falling in Love. And the one that won out for being my first was The Night Before Christmas. So, whether you voted or not, you might be looking at this title and thinking, wait a minute, this isn't either of those. What the heck happened? And let me tell you why really quick. As I was creating my sort of template list for the kinds of qualities that you look for when you watch a good rom-com, especially around the holidays, was I realized, speaking to a friend and to my brother, that not everyone knows some of the names or terminology for certain tropes. Not that I'm going to go super film buff heavy or whatever. I was an English major, not a film student. My brother is a film student, so I know better than that. You know what movie really explains some of these tropes very well, and what movie really could guide us through what to expect in a good rom-com, especially for Christmas? The Holiday, 2006. Yep, we're skipping straight past the 2019 movies and going 13 years in the past. Let's go. So, The Holiday, starring Cameron Diaz, Jack Black, Jude Law, and Kate Winslet, is, as you may have guessed, an ensemble Christmas movie. And by that I mean that instead of having very minor throwaways to the protagonist's best friend and her date, or the mom or the brother or whoever, which, can exist, your average two-person protagonist kind of lead sort of thing, The Holiday is definitely supposed to be centered around this idea of two couples and two sort of swaps. So it really is kind of a good idea to examine both of the couples and why they work and why maybe they don't work, and what exactly it is about The Holiday that makes it such a good Christmas rom-com. Now, when we start off, we meet Kate Winslet's character, who gets to have the kind of opening monologue over all the different characters as you meet them, and you get to see all different types of love, and as she gets to speak over about what is love, what are the different kinds of love. There's love that is fading, love that has never gone away, there's love that is fleeting, or love that's only for a night, love that is blind, and then you have unrequited love. So each of the 4 or 5 characters you meet is supposed to represent a different type of love in that capacity. So Cameron Diaz's character is a big shot Hollywood film trailer buff person who cuts trailers and makes a lot of money and lives in this big house and is in an unhappy relationship. And we first meet her kicking her boyfriend out of the house, and she's just had it. And one of the things that we're introduced to the fact is that she is not emotional. She does get mad, and it's not that she doesn't have feelings, but she doesn't know how to cry. And that's a big deal, especially because when we see her foil, or when we see her British double or whatever, when we meet Kate Winslet, we see a woman who is all too in her feelings and cries so much in the beginning as the person who experiences this sort of unrequited love for a friend slash former flame slash F-boy, we realize that she is still very much into this guy who is giving her a lot of attention, but as we find out, he is engaged to someone else. Ouch. Now, as we have these two different major female characters, the one who sticks it to her cheating a-hole of a boyfriend and kicks him out, finally gets him to confess that he did in fact cheat, and then punches him in the face. So we got that strong female character. Then we get this other woman who has been pining after this man for so long, and we find out now that he's going to marry someone else, and then still more or less wants to keep in contact with her so that she can help with his book or whatever, and more or less is kind of a doormat. They're definitely supposed to be opposed to one another as far as personality wise goes. I think it'd be a very telling sort of quiz to take a which character in the holiday are you type quiz, because teenage Lauren would have been Kate Winslet's character all the way. I was so drawn to unrequited love characters. That's all you need to know about that. That's that on that. But adult Lauren definitely has a certain sort of respect for Cameron Diaz's character and just her ability to not take his crap whatsoever. That isn't to say you can't like both of them, or that both of them aren't awesome or cool or any of those things. I'm just noticing certain qualities that you might idealize at different stages of your life for different reasons. So, the main plot twist, whatever, the main call to adventure happens when both of these women are at their lowest points, especially with the men in their lives, and they are over it. They don't want to be around their homes anymore and moping about over these boys, these men, and so they end up on a house swap site, and Cameron Diaz's character convinces Kate Winslet to switch her house with her, even though Cameron Diaz's house is impressively massive, and Kate Winslet's house is impressively adorable, and, amazing, but an interesting swap for sure. And the movie gets started, and they switch lives. So, meanwhile, there are the two leading men, and you might be surprised to think, okay, so we got Kate Winslet, Cameron Diaz, who else is there? Okay, so we have Jude Law. Okay, Jude Law, makes sense, pretty good. And we also have Jack Black. That might give you pause. Both really good actors. Just very unexpected to see them playing similar-ish roles in a rom-com. Also, before this, I hadn't really seen Jack Black do anything less super slapstick funny. So I was like, okay, we shall see, kind of a thing. But Jack Black plays a musician who writes the scores for movies, a composer, and who's in a relationship with a beautiful model or actress or something who is 100% cheating on him. And then we meet Jude Law's character, and we find that he is somebody who is just kind of playing the field and sleeping around and just being non-committal, generally speaking. And so now finally we come to our meet cute. Now, in order to explain what a meet cute is, we're going to skip forward a little bit to when Kate Winslet's character comes across an elderly man named Arthur. Arthur is, as it turns out, a filmmaker who is living in the same neighborhood Winslet's character Iris is staying in for Christmas, and she sees him kind of making his way around like she's seen him earlier, only usually he has a nurse or somebody with him to kind of make sure he gets around safely. But right now, he looks kind of like he's lost. So she stops the car and pulls over and asks him if he needs a ride home. And then they get to talking, and the more she talks to him, out of this thing that she had done really just out of the kindness of her heart and to be good to another stranger, the more interesting and intriguing a character he becomes to her. And as she takes him home, he says, "Wow, that was some meet cute." And she goes, "Meet cute?" And then he explains,
"It's how two characters meet in a movie. Say a man and a woman both need something to sleep in.
Uh-huh.
And they both go to the same men's pajama department.
Right.
And the man says to the salesman, 'I just need bottoms.' The woman says, 'I just need a top.' They look at each other, and that's the meet cute.
Oh, I see.
Of course, this isn't quite that cute."
As they go inside the house, she gets to see all kinds of really cool trophies and mementos and things left over from his life as this big shot film producer. And she's just like intrigued, but also as somebody who's really freaking lonely. She realizes that this man and her, to some extent, share more in common than she would have originally thought. They are both lonely, and you know what? They can go out to dinner together, and so that's what they do. So in a lot of rom-coms, we would say that Arthur fulfills a certain sort of wise old man, wise old lady sort of trope. It doesn't even have to be a rom-com. It could be any movie, but you know, it does happen every so often that that old man who's in the coffee shop, or that old lady who lives next door who you see watering her flowers, just when you need the perfect advice, you're gonna come across her, and she's just gonna tell you, you gotta run after that man and go to the airport or whatever it might be. And so in this case, that kind of happens.
I can tell, are a leading lady. But for some reason, you're behaving like the best friend.
In my opinion, Arthur is able to move past being like a kind of a shallow background character into becoming one of my favorite characters within the movie. The more you see Iris spend time with him, the more you realize like the wealth that exists within this movie to be more than just like happy romance time. Because it is an ensemble movie, kind of in the way that Love Actually is, you see there's different pacing for different couples. Like the first night that Jude Law and Cameron Diaz's characters meet one another, they sleep together. The first night, Cameron Diaz is also alone in England and getting over a nasty breakup when she opens her door to this man who is standing on her doorstep, kind of drunk, and they end up having a conversation that leads to more. As it turns out, Jude Law is Kate Winslet's brother, and he had no idea that his sister had taken an impromptu Christmas vacation to Hollywood. Way to tell your brother about that, by the way. And so while both of them had agreed upon the initial introduction of the house swap that there would be no boys, no men, that they would just be able to be on their own, healing in their own time, that doesn't exactly happen for Cameron. For Kate and Jack Black, for example, it's a little more hard to define. When they first meet, Jack Black is not alone. He has his girlfriend with him. And even though there's this moment together on the steps where he's realizing that his boss or his friend, aka Amanda or Cameron's ex-cheating boyfriend, is not around, there's a wind. The Santa Ana winds are blowing, and instead of snow, the Santa Ana winds happen to be the magical Christmassy element that we're missing, and not a, habitat and home destroying force that have kind of ruined a lot of things in LA the past few years. But this is 2006, it's fine. There's a sort of spark, even if it's different, where he's helping move something just out of her face for her.
Legend has it, when the Santas blow, all bets are off. Anything can happen. That's it.
It is a little interesting to see Jack Black in that light a little bit, but the more you get to know his character, the more warm and friendly and goofy he is, the more he stands in contrast to Jasper, Cate Blanchett, or Iris's scummy, unrequited love interest. So now we get to the problem. What is the thing that holds them apart? What is that quality that keeps them from immediately just, bing, everything's happily ever after? Well, here we go. As I was just mentioning, Jack Black has a girlfriend. His character is taken for most of the movie, actually. And Cate Blanchett's character is hardly the type to attempt to kind of have some sort of torrid affair. Instead, for most of the movie, the pacing of that one is that they are becoming friends, and that they're also becoming friends with Arthur, who's the man in the middle to kind of seal the deal and make them all real close. So that brings us to that plot line, that Arthur is supposed to be being rewarded like a lifetime achievement award, and he doesn't want to do it, in part because he hasn't really been around some of these people in a long time, and he doesn't even know, like, would they even know who he is, would they even care, and in part because he doesn't feel like physically strong enough to be able to climb the stairs to the stage in order to accept his award. And so a major part of the plot is Jack Black and Kate Winslet helping him do physical therapy so that he can climb the stairs to accept his award. What keeps Jude Law and Cameron Diaz apart, aside from their first encounter of a close kind, the two of them keep kind of running into each other. They kind of have a, don't fall in love with me, I won't, I'm emotionally unavailable, I'm even more emotionally unavailable, but I'm attracted to you, ooh, I'm attracted to you too kind of moment. But Jude Law just can't seem to get enough of her, so in spite of his I don't really date kind of rules, they keep dating. And there's still this fear, of course, of, she's not going to be there forever, so the timeline, the clock, is definitely a part of it. But then there's something else too. Every time she hangs out with him, he almost inevitably will always get a text or a call from a girl, and it's never seemingly the same girl either. And finally, it ends up with Cameron going to Jude Law's house in order to kind of surprise him with dinner and do something fun for him for once. And the door opens, and it's two little kids. Of course, she wants to make sure that he's not married and cheating on his wife and stuff, but as it turns out, his wife died, and he is a widower. Part of the reason why he wasn't introducing her to his family, or part of the reason why he didn't talk about her, of course, is the fact that, again, we don't know how long Amanda will stay there. She's only supposed to be there for a couple weeks. Why would he introduce her to his family when she's only there for a couple weeks? So in a good rom-com, we need to know, how are they going to meet in the middle? A lot of times in some rom-coms, it feels like anyway, the girl is going to give up a whole lot in order to be with him. Is she going to quit her job in the big city and move to small town USA in order to live on his ranch? We'll see. So with Jack Black's character, Miles, we end up wondering, what's going to happen between him and his girlfriend. Unfortunately, we see him being cheated on at the same time he does, while his girlfriend is supposedly filming or doing a shoe in a completely other state. Oops. She's able to kind of talk him through it and to go through some sort of commiserating, miserable party of two about just how much it sucks to love someone way more than they could ever love you back.
And how it can actually ache in places that you didn't know you had inside you. And it doesn't matter how many new haircuts you get, or gyms you join, or how many glasses of Chardonnay you drink with your girlfriends. You still go to bed every night going over every detail and wonder what you did wrong or how you could have misunderstood.
For both of them, a lot of the rest of the movie is just about healing and focusing that attention on their really fun new grandpa Arthur and finding attraction and friendship between each other along the way, more than I think it is a typical rom-com kind of spark romance kind of situation. So for both of them, in a lot of ways, the thing that's getting in the way from them being a thing is really just their past relationships. For Kate Winslet's character, Iris, more than Jack's even, because Jasper shows up out of the blue at one point in order to kind of be like, hi, remember me? Don't forget me. You will only love me like an a-hole. And it takes Kate's character a minute to finally like wake up and realize, oh, he's only here because he misses all that attention I used to give him. And that once, the second that she would show him that sort of affection back for real, he's just gonna drop her again. Because he's a commitment phobe and a jerk. So really, for that couple, for Iris and Miles, whatever that compromise is really just about compromising with themselves. Being willing to move on and heal themselves. And as they heal themselves, they're able to open something for each other. Wow. Meanwhile, Jude Law and Cameron Diaz, there's that sort of like thing where Jude Law's character, who's supposed to be the least attached character in the movie, has fallen in love with her, and Cameron is kind of beginning to freak out a bit about it, and she only has so much time before she has to go. What would she even do? Like he's this publisher / journalist who's hot and a single dad, and she's this big shot producer. Like, how could it ever work? His sacrifice is letting her into his family, even though he knows that chances are she's not going to be around for much longer, and that it's, kind of a wound within himself to let somebody get to know him with his daughters, and to see what that could look like when he begins to move on. And for Cameron Diaz's character, it's to see, okay, this guy is much better of a man than someone I've been with recently, but he also comes with all the things that I've been kind of afraid of before. This comes with even more commitment. It comes with 2 kids, and who knows what that future could look like.
We never have grown-ups here that are girls. I know. I really like it. Me too.
In Queer Eye, they have this phrase where they like to say that they're doing a make better instead of a makeover. And I really like that phrase because it's really about turning yourself into a better version of yourself instead of a perfect person or whatever the ideal person is for that season or that year, that look, whatever. And so I think in a rom-com or in any sort of romance, you're hoping that they make each other better naturally. So for that make better quality, let's start with Jack and Kate. Jack definitely is able to help Kate begin to trust again. He's a really warm and friendly presence, and he is super funny, and he kind of helps her begin to trust her own skill and ability, and will back her up and say that Jasper was an a-hole, and to trust her own instincts and things of that nature. And meanwhile, Kate is able to see that Jack's character is a total gem and super funny and talented and all these things, and that he shouldn't be feeling like, oh, I should be so lucky when it comes to the relationship he's in, that he's somebody who could get easily manipulated by people he's been with because he doesn't really understand his own worth, and that she sees it from the beginning and is able to kind of bring some more of that out in him and show what kind of a cool person he is, helping others, with Arthur. And then meanwhile with Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, obviously they both soften each other a lot. They both go into it with the expectations of a fling and just kind of living for today, and they both get out of it realizing that love and family and the future is totally on the table, that it is possible to open your heart again to someone else. It's okay to be softer and more emotional, and that if you do cry because you need to cry, that's okay. Meanwhile, with the emotional flip, Kate Winslet has cried enough, and Jack Black's character is not someone that's going to make her cry anymore. So, ending. Satisfying or no? Let's go over it. We have Jude Law make a "I'm willing to do this with you if you're willing to do this with me" kind of like stake in the ground statement. And she's like, "Oh, I don't know about this." And she says no and leaves. But as she's driving away, she has that, "You know what? Yes. Actually, yes." And she realizes this because she's actually crying. And as she runs back to the house in the snow, she finds that he has been like crying his eyes out since she left, and then they're able to reunite and realize that, you know what, she's gonna stay till New Year's. It's not a full promise, but it's a like, I'm gonna stay another week and then another week and then another week, kind of the potential for more. And meanwhile, Kate Winslet and Jack Black are able to take Arthur in his award show, and it goes super smoothly, and they're able to realize that everything they've been working for together with their friend has gone well. And there's like, "What are you doing for New Year's Eve?" And she's like, "Oh, I don't know, I'm gonna be in England." And he's like, "I've never been to England." And the movie ends with them all in England celebrating New Year's Eve together, and you realize that they're couples and they're in love, and we don't really know what the future looks like, but it is so satisfying. In my opinion, I was really surprised by some of the like ratings on it, because I'm a huge like emotional softy idiot, and so like for me this is like peak rom-com. I love it so much. But to me, ending satisfying, yes, thank you. We're gonna go back over our trope list really fast. So, city versus country, absolutely, that's like the whole plot of the movie. It's England versus Hollywood. It happens. Check. Okay. Old wise person. Arthur. Check. Okay. Chemistry. Is it there? Yes and no. I think it's arguable, but I think it's more clearly obvious for Jude Law and Cameron, at least at first, than it is for Kate and Jack. But it's still, there's something there, but something there. It's arguable. Squiggly check. Pining. How much is there? A healthy amount? Too much? There's a fair amount of pining, but it has mostly to do with Kate Winslet's character and characters that love characters that they can't or shouldn't be with, more than the main characters pining after one another. Pretty much in this movie, if they want somebody, they usually just go after it. I think the closest to the other we see is really Jude Law's character pining after Cameron Diaz towards the end of the film, but they still get together relatively quickly after that. But on the other hand, we see Kate Winslet's character and the detrimental effects of pining after somebody that can't love you in the way that you deserve to be loved, and how harmful that can be on somebody's ego and identity. And oh boy, do we have a best friend? Kind of. There aren't really best friend characters. Kids or cute animals. Yes, absolutely, we meet Jude Law's kids, and they are adorable as heck. And do they propel the plot forward at all, or are they just cute? They do propel the plot forward, because they're able to bring Cameron Diaz like into the domestic realm of his home, and to show that she could actually fit into their home and into their lives in a way that she was not expecting whatsoever. I can see how that can be ham-fisted in some parts of other movies. Personally, I've babysat a lot, and I think in general, the way they're like, "Come play with us, do this thing, la la," that happens. And Cameron Diaz is a beautiful woman, tall blonde girl. They're like a human Barbie. Yes, please. So, makes sense to me. So, the problem, the thing that keeps them apart, like how good of an excuse is it? Jude Law and Cameron Diaz, intimacy issues, family on one side, as an added problem that she is only there on vacation for a few weeks. It's a pretty good excuse. Meanwhile, Jack Black and Kate Winslet's character, he is in a relationship for most of it. She is getting over a relationship for most of it. And again, she's only there for a short amount of time. pretty good excuse to me, and it's a bit much slower burn anyway. By the time the movie is over, or at least before the epilogue, we know that like their relationship in a lot of ways is just beginning anyway. Meet in the middle. Are they able to meet in the middle? Yes. Kate Winslet's characters are able to put aside their own past hurt and their own insecurities and doubts, and to trust one another after that friendship that they've established over the past couple of weeks. And on the other hand, Jude Law and Cameron Diaz's characters are able to meet in the middle intimacy-wise, and to realize that it is possible to have a family and to date and to trust your emotions and to allow yourself to be more sensitive and to love again. Make better. Do they make each other better people? I think overall, yes. I think, again, Cameron Diaz and Jude Law are able to make each other more open and warm, and I don't want to say complete, but at least more healed people than they were in the beginning. And I would say the same for Jack Black and Kate Winslet's characters, in that are both more like secure in who they are as people, like as being worthy of being in a relationship with somebody who actually cares about them to the degree that they deserve to be cared about. And then as far as satisfying ending goes, oh man, I loved it. I love the epilogue. I think I could understand if you wanted a little bit more of Kate and Jack Black's storyline. There isn't the most romance heavy plot, because a lot of it is focused on their friendship with Arthur and their former flames and things of that nature. So I could watch a movie literally just on them as a couple. I could see how those two plot lines, how that could get in the way of some things. But overall, I'm very content. As far as ensemble movies, I love it. I do. So for me, it's 10 out of 10. Okay, I'm going to see The Night Before Christmas, Last Christmas, and Falling in Love next. And if you have any other ideas or suggestions as far as rom-coms, whether they're from this year or like 20 years ago or whatever, as long as you think it falls in the category of romantic comedy and a Christmas movie to some extent, to the extent that it's a Christmas movie, let me know in the comments down below, or go follow me on Twitter or Instagram and like vote when I have a poll. I think it could be a lot more interesting or fun if I get some ideas from you guys. I have a list, but if there's anything in particular you guys really want to see or talk about, I'd love to talk about it too. So yeah, it's kind of the beginning of something interesting. Now that we've gone over these qualities and one of my favorite Christmas rom-coms of all time, I'm ready to see what the rest of the season will bring. And I'll see you next time. Bye.